Risk was real, not paranoia. Foresight.
You encountered power you could not control.
You ended the war outside the village and started a quieter one inside it. You built the ideology.
You built a cycle. Itachi and I are just 2 rotations of it.
Brother.
I am Tobirama. I co-founded the first shinobi village in history. And apparently, that was not enough to avoid a tribunal. My distrust of your clan was logical, not personal. The Sharingan draws its power from loss, rage, grief. That is not prejudice. That is a documented pattern.
You observed a pattern and built a cage around an entire clan because of it. Tell me, did you apply that same logic to every clan whose power carried risk, or just ours?
Every clan was assessed. The Uchiha presented a specific and elevated...
You were just a racist. You encountered power you could not control. That is what elevated means here.
I gave your clan the police force. I handed villages' safety to Uchiha hands. If I feared you, why would I trust you with that?
Because it was useful. You put us where the village's darkness lives. Every crime, every violence, every hard thing, and watched it harden us. Then pointed at us and said, "See? I told you they were dangerous." You did not distrust us from a distance. You engineered the conditions, then called the result proof.
I gave your clan a stake in this village, not a cage. The police force was not surveillance. It was institution. I took the most powerful eyes in Leaf Village and made them its protectors. That is not fear. That is respect for capability. Every clan received a role. Yours received authority.
Deflect all you want. Here is what you cannot deflect. You built Konoha to end the cycle of war. Then you recreated the exact same dynamic inside your own walls. Suspected, watched, cornered. You ended the war outside the village and started a quieter one inside it.
Monitoring a high-risk clan is not a war.
People who are treated as threats eventually stop seeing a reason not to become one. You knew that. You just did not care whose fault it would look like when it happened.
You are using your suffering as a shield. Pain explains you. It does not excuse you. The moment you made your grief everyone else's funeral, you lost the right to lecture me about cycles.
So the system that cornered my clan, that manufactured the resentment, that means nothing? You just absolved yourself because I went too far?
I did not absolve myself. I am saying you found Madara. And Madara told you your pain justified everything. You were not radicalized by my policies. You were weaponized by your own clan's worst impulse, wearing an old man's face. The Nine Tails. The war. Thousands dead across every nation. That is not my system running to completion. That is Madara Uchiha, using a grieving child as an instrument. I warned about what happens when Uchiha grief meets unchecked power. He proved it. You continued it.
Your brothers died one by one in the warring states. Grief, rage, loss. If someone had looked at young Tobirama, grieving, angry, and said, "This one is a risk. Watch him. Keep him at the edge," Would that have been logical or personal?
That is not a comparable situation.
Isn't it?
Madara created you. I did not put him in that cave. I did not give you the mask. The difference between me and your clan is I never let that grief become everyone else's problem. The suffering of the Uchiha clan proved my concerns were valid. I'm saying the risk was real, not paranoia. Foresight.
I developed Koto Amatsukami specifically to prevent that coup. Peacefully. Without a single casualty. I was inside the clan.
You were one man, one eye, and a plan that required everything to go perfectly. Governance cannot be built on perfect plans.
I understood the resentment, and I found a way out that did not require anyone to die. So instead, it was built on a massacre.
That decision was not mine. I was dead.
The system that made it feel inevitable, that was yours. And so was Danzo. You built a man who believed preemptive action against the Uchiha was not just acceptable, it was necessary. You planted that seed. His root, his logic, his willingness to order a massacre of an entire clan, that does not exist without your framework normalizing it first. You inspired him, even from the grave.
Danzo's methods were his own. I never sanctioned.
You did not have to sanction it. You built the ideology. He just followed it to its conclusion. You trusted Kagami with your life, Sharingan, and everything you claimed to fear. And he never gave you a reason to doubt him. If one Uchiha standing next to you disproved the pattern, why did the clan keep paying for what he already answered?
Kagami was exceptional.
So were a lot of us. You just never looked.
Proof. You are calling what happened to my family proof.
I am calling the pattern.
My brother was a child prodigy who loved this village more than he loved himself. Your system looked at that boy and handed him an impossible choice. Kill his entire family or watch the village burn. He was 13 years old. He chose the village. He always chose the village. And then he spent the rest of his life letting me hate him for it. Because the alternative was me losing faith in Konoha. I grew up with that night living inside my head. And when I finally learned the truth, there was nothing left to do with it. He was already gone.
Itachi made his choice. A painful one. That kind of sacrifice is what keeping a village standing sometimes demands.
Do not wrap my brother's suffering in the language of noble burden. Your policies backed a clan into a corner. That corner produced a coup. That coup produced Itachi's mission. Itachi's mission produced me. You built a cycle. Itachi and I are just 2 rotations of it. You want proof the risk was real? I am your proof. Not the coup. Not Itachi. Me. I am what your system produced when it ran to completion. So yes, the math worked. You were right. I'm just asking you to look at what being right cost.
Or, without the containment, the coup happens a generation earlier. Itachi understood that. Better than most. My brother's idealism was beautiful. But someone had to be the realist.
I am not here to argue about systems or policy. I am not a clan leader. I am a mother. My son came home one night and sat across from me at dinner. He was 13. quiet, something behind his eyes that I could not reach. I told myself it was adolescence. I told myself he was tired. 3 days later, he killed everyone I loved.
That is not a consequence I wanted.
I know you did not want it. That is almost worse. You want to talk about realism? Here is reality. Your system took my eldest son, a child prodigy who loved this village more than himself, and loaded him with a burden so heavy it fractured something inside him. A boy that broken does not carry the weight quietly. He put his little brother inside a genjutsu and made him watch us die. Not because he was cruel, because he was shattered. Sasuke grew up with that night living inside his head. Built his entire identity around a grief he did not fully understand. That damage, that specific, precise damage, traces back through the mission, through the coup, through the marginalization, through the policy, through you.
That is the life of a shinobi. It has always been the life of a shinobi. We carry what the village needs us to carry.
Brother,
Elder brother, what are you doing here?
supporting you.
This is an Uchiha debate.
I know. I founded the village with one.
That is not a reason.
I'll be quick. You are right that someone had to be the realist. I know that. I have always known that. But there is a difference between being the realist and deciding alone what reality is. You decided the Uchiha were a threat. You decided the margins of the village were appropriate placement. You decided monitoring was necessary. All of it, alone, logical, documented. You never once asked me.
You would have said trust them. You always said trust them.
Maybe. But that was my right as Hokage. You were my brother, my advisor, not the silent architect of clan policy operating behind the dream I was building.
Your heart was always pure. That was your gift. You could look at Madara, a man who spent years trying to kill you, and still believe in him. That is not weakness. That is something I genuinely could not do. But someone had to see what you refused to. Someone had to build the walls while you built the dream. Make the hard calls while you were busy being loved. Take the blame so the village you believed in could survive long enough to deserve that belief. You got to be Hashirama because I was willing to be Tobirama. I never needed you to agree with me. I needed you to still be standing when it was over.
But look at this room. Look at every person who sat across from you today. These are the people your realism left behind, and not one of them is wrong for being here.
Like and subscribe if you liked the content.